with the Montreal Canadiens 2023-24 season over. It's time to try to figure out who stays and who goes during the offseason. Hey, everybody, I'm Rick. Welcome to Talking Habs, where you get your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge. This is expected to be a very interesting, if not busy, offseason for the Montreal Canadiens and GM Kent Hughes, as they kind of do need to move some defensemen. They're looking for a winger, a top six winger, and maybe some bottom six help as well. And so we're going to take a look and see who I think stays, who I think goes, and who I think is on the bubble. So players that I think might get traded and might not. All right, we're going to start with who stays. Why waste time? All right, so number one on that list is the captain, Nick Suzuki. Obviously, Nick Suzuki ain't going anywhere, even though you see the odd rumor out there. It's some idiot, to trade him for somebody. Nick Suzuki, number one center, captain of the team, going nowhere. Next up, Cole Coffield. Is another guy, surprisingly, that you'll see some rumors. Cole Coffield will stay without a doubt. They're not moving him. They just signed him before the season, or was before the season, to a $7.8 million 8-year deal. They're not moving this guy. I'm sure there are other teams that would like to get him, but he's staying in Montreal. Next up is Mike Matheson. Mike Matheson, who I believe is entering the final year of his contract. He's the number one defenseman on this team right now, and a veteran, and a lot of rumors to trade Matheson while his value is probably maybe at its highest. I don't think they're moving him. As a matter of fact, I think over the next season we're going to see that they re-sign Mike Matheson. He's here for a while. Next up, Juraj Slafkovsky on his way to take part in the World Championships with Cole Coffield, obviously different teams. Slafkovsky, who everyone's saying he's a bust, you got to send him to the AHL, had a fantastic season. It was a slow start, but once he picked it up, the sky was the limit. He had 50 points, and basically that was like 50 points. He might have got 35 of those in like 36 or 37 games at the end of the season. Slav's going nowhere. If you think they're going to trade him, you're wrong. He's a number one pick overall, and he is now playing like one. Next up, Alex Newhook, acquired in the offseason last year for 2 draft picks, a first and a third, I believe. And Newhook, it's paid off because he's had a career year. He was injured, so I think he only played like 54 games. But he bested his career goals total and points totals, and that was in like 16 fewer games. Alex Newhook hasn't hit his ceiling yet. He's not going anywhere. Next up is Brendan Gallagher. Now, with that contract of his, a lot of people obviously want Gallagher gone. We need the money, all that stuff. Gally had a pretty good season where he played his ass off. He played every game except I think he had a suspension. I don't know if he missed any to injury, but he played like 72 games or something like that. So Gally had a surprising season in my view. He played his ass off. He works hard every game and gives everything on the ice. And I don't think he's going anywhere because nobody's going to pick up that contract. Next up, defenseman David Savard. Rumored to have been gone at the trade deadline, and the Habs did not move him. Now, that was either they didn't get what they wanted, they were asking for, or they didn't want to move him. I think it's very possible. First of all, I don't think they're going to move him in the offseason, and I think he will start the season. They will move him at the trade deadline if they're going to. I think it's entirely possible that they actually re-sign him and have Matheson and Savard as the 2 veteran defensemen. You need vets. You need that to win, and it's very possible that they're going to re-sign Savard. My opinion, and a lot of other people's as well. Next up, Caden Gooley. Top 4 D-man. A lot of rumors to move Gooley to pick up, obviously, a very quality forward, and you got to give up something to get something, and I get that. I think he stays. They're building a defensive core. I think he's going to be part of that. Caden Gooley, his defensive play is amazing. His defensive stick, He's physical. He can put up some points. He's just an all-around solid, good defenseman. So I think he's staying. Now, the next guy, a lot of people surprisingly want to see Arbor Xhekaj traded. I don't think there's a hope in hell he's getting traded. He brings something, that physical element that you don't find very often. Plus, if you look at his metrics and his stats, and this guy is one of the top defensemen on this team. So I think he's very underrated, and he's going absolutely nowhere. And his potential hasn't been hit yet, in my opinion. Next up is Lane Hudson. He played just 2 games here this last season. And in those 2 games, definitely you saw this is an NHL defenseman, and he's potential to be a great one. Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes potential. He's a top 2 defenseman, and I don't think he's going anywhere. He's not going to go. He's obviously not going to get traded, and he's not going to see the AHL. He's going to start with the season with Montreal, and unless he falters, he's staying with the big club. Next up, Cayden Primeau finally emerged this year as a quality backup, in my opinion. I think that's what he is right now. He's a backup goalie. Eventually, maybe he'll be a starter. But I think he's not going anywhere. They didn't try to put him down in Laval this past season because they didn't want him to be claimed on waivers. So they're not trading him. He proved himself to be a good quality backup, and I want to see more. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet either. Next up, his tandem teammate, Sam Montembeault, emerging also as a starter. Signed a 3-year contract this past season that I think kicks in. He signed it in the offseason and it kicked. I'm not sure, but he just signed recently a 3-year deal. He's the number 1 starter for now until somebody takes it away from him. Jacob Fowler arrives and does that. Cayden Primeau improves to do that, or Jacob Dobas. I don't know. I think Monty hasn't hit his ceiling yet either. I think he's still got a little ways to go to do that, and I don't think he's going anywhere. Next up, Joshua Roy as a prospect. I don't know, did I say that? Some of these guys here are prospects. Joshua Roy, who spent a good part of this season here in Montreal, proving he's an NHLer. Is he a top 6 or a top 9? Don't know that. We'll have to see how training camp, how that works out. I don't think they're going to move him unless there's that deal where they think they can't turn it down and that's the guy they want. But I still don't think Joshua Roy is going anywhere. Next up, last year's top pick in the draft, David Reinbacher, also a prospect playing in Laval. I think Reinbacher probably makes the team out of camp. If not, he's going to be really, really close. They're not moving Reinbacher. He's not going anywhere. He's going to prove himself very worthy of that top 5 pick. And I think if he spends time in Laval, it'll be at the beginning of the year and eventually get a call-up, and he'll stick around. David Reinbacher. Next up, Logan Mayu. Mayu, who played the last game of the season in Montreal and didn't really look out of place. I didn't think. His defensive play was okay. I thought he looked pretty good. He had a great season with the Laval Rocket. His potential is big, and I don't think they're going to move away from this guy. He's big. He's offensive. He's an offensive defenseman, plays a physical game, and just has a little bit of defensive things he's got to work on. No big deal. Logan Mayu, he stays. Jaden Struble, who I had written off before the season as, guy they're going to move on from, put him in a package, deal him somewhere. And he didn't start the season with Montreal. But when he did get the call-up, that was it. You saw Jaden Struble was an NHL defenseman and a good quality one. He's physical. He has offensive skills, and he can skate like the wind. And, I don't think he's going – he could go back to Laval because of their logjam at defense, but that's the only reason. But they're not moving on from him, I don't think. Next, we go to the who goes. There's 4 guys here that I think do go. 3, it's obvious. And then there's one is Jordan Harris. Rumored that the Habs are seriously were shopping him at the deadline. They do have this logjam at defense. And between Harris, Barron, and Kovacevic, one or more of those guys have to go. I think Harris is probably the first one of those to go. Where? I don't know, but I think he does in the offseason. So Jordan Harris, he is a top 7 D-man, and I like Harris. Just there's no room. Next up, Tanner Pearson was part of the deal that sent Casey DeSmith to Vancouver. Came here. He played well at the beginning of the season, and then he got hurt, and he barely scored a point after that. He had a few points. That was it. Didn't show enough. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he's not going to end up in Montreal next season. Next is Jesse Ylönen. Ylönen needed to show them that they need to keep him. He didn't really do that. I don't think he had a great season. He had moments. He had flashes. That's about it. I don't see why they keep him around. They'll move him or let him go. I'm not sure what his contract status is as far as RFA or UFA. But Ylönen, I don't think, is here next season, actually. Colin White picked up late on waivers to fill in as the 4th-line center because of injuries. I guess the Devo was the reason why. He played like 28 games and got 0 points, nothing, nada, didn't really show anything, wasn't exciting, was ho-hum. Why are they going to re-sign him? Just because he was a former client of Kent Hughes? He's not sticking around. No way. Next up are the players that I think are on the bubble that could be moved, that maybe they can't find a deal, that will be moved very shortly, if not this season coming up or in this offseason. I mean, maybe during the season, depending on injuries and all that kind of stuff. Let's get right to those guys. First one is Joel Armia, the guy that we've been calling to have them trade for the last 3 seasons, and then he shows up. And he has 17 goals, which is a career high, played well. A 3rd-line guy, you get that from a 3rd-line guy, you're happy. Armia, I think a team might be interested, even at $3.4 million for 1 year. If not, I do believe he'll get moved at the deadline or traded earlier than that at some point during the season, especially if he plays well again. That interest is going to go up because he's an experienced elite penalty kill guy. So, there should be some interest in Armia. Next up, a guy I've been standing up for the last 2 years, Josh Anderson. He had a horrible year. 20 points, 9 goals, 11 assists. No, I think it's time. If they get an offer for him, I think you move him. At this point, I love his speed, his size. He can be physical, but he's not always. And he doesn't even do what he started out his first year. He would go up the wing and break into the net, and it was effective. And now he doesn't even do that hardly at all. I think if they can find somebody to take him, they make the move. Next up, Jonathan Kovacevic, or Kovacevic, if you want to say it properly. They picked him up off waivers from Winnipeg. I never heard of him before. He came in and he played well. He's not going to overwhelm you with his skill and all that, but he is a guy that won't hurt you almost every night. He won't hurt you. He'll provide a little bit of offense. He's not physical enough for his size. That's my opinion. But I think he's a guy that if you pick him up, he's not making a lot of money. I think he can help a lot of teams out there, and I think there'll be some interest in Kovacevic, and I think they're going to have to move Harris, Kovacevic, Barron, 2 of those guys. Next up, Mike Pezzetta. Everybody loves Mike Pezzetta. He's got just something. I don't know how you don't love him. He's got energy. He's got enthusiasm. He'll fight, even if he's outmatched. He'll stick up for teammates. And he'll pot a goal here and there. And you got to love that hair and those wild eyes. Mike Pezzetta, though, he's got to be on the bubble at this point. He's a fourth liner. I don't know. I'd keep him around, but I don't know who they're going to bring in and all that. I think he's on the bubble. So Mike Pezzetta. Next up, Christian Dvorak. He made it back at the end of the season. He was supposed to be gone the rest of the season. Great face-off, man. Just didn't put up enough. He hasn't scored enough, put up enough production. He's been injury-prone a bit. He's got, I think, 1 year left on the contract. I think if they don't trade him in the off season, I think he's going to be moved at the deadline. But Dvorak, you can find a team who needs a really good, solid face-off man and a good third-line center. He is a good third-line center. I don't know if he's a third-line center on a team that wants to be a championship team. That's the thing. I know they all want to be championship teams, but they're not all capable. Next up, Jake Evans. Jake Evans, our fourth-line center, playing third-line center, I think, a lot of this season because of the injuries. He had a great year for him. I don't know if it was career numbers or not, but I thought he was good. He didn't score enough for my liking. But I think he played solid defensive hockey. His face-off numbers were good, 52-point-something%. I just think there's a chance that, depending on the moves and how what they have to bring back in, with whatever they might have to acquire guys, they might find the need to move Evans, or there might be a request and they make a deal. But Evans, I think, is on the bubble. Next up, guy everybody loves, Raphael Harvey Pinard. Love the kid. Did not have a great season. He had 2 goals after having 14 the year before. Everyone had high expectations. I didn't, but I expected more than 2 goals. He always works his ass off, a la Brendan Gallagher. You got to love this kid. But I think he's on the bubble, depending on the moves that Montreal makes. There might not be a spot for him. Now we get to, we're going to go with Justin Barron. That third defenseman that could move of the young guys. Justin Barron played about half the season in the AHL, came up, played well. He's got some work to do still, but he's an offensive defenseman. Highly rated, I guess, if you ask Sidney Crosby. Justin Barron, I don't know. I think they could move him or they could keep him if there's interest in him. I don't know which one of these 3 young defensemen there's going to be interest in. So if it's Barron, I think Barron could go. He's definitely on the bubble. Next prospect, Owen Beck. Owen Beck. I think he's on the bubble because I've seen rumors out there for him. I think it's a player that a lot of teams would like to acquire. So it's a player that if you're looking to acquire a certain guy on a team and they ask for Owen Beck, I could see him being moved. He's a top 9 center. What I mean by that is I think he's an ideal third-line center. I think he's going to be a really good, solid to great NHL player. But I think if Montreal gets asked for him and what's coming back they like, Owen Beck could move. And finally, Filip Mesar, Slavkovsky's best friend in Slovakia, having a great season in the OHL. I think he's going to play for the Rocket next year. I don't think that's in doubt. I think he's the kind of guy that a lot of teams could look at and go, yeah, if we get maybe we'll get this guy. That's the kind of guy that can help a lot of teams. I think he could help Montreal, but is there room here? I don't know. He's not huge, and I think Montreal needs to get bigger, so that could work against him. But I do think there'll be interest in Filip Mesar, and I think he's on the bubble because they could move him. But he'll play for Laval next season. I'm quite sure of that. All right, that's it. I went through everybody quicker than I thought. Let me know what you think in the comment section about what I said here. If you disagree, let me know. So do that. Give a thumbs up if you liked it. And that's it. I don't know what else to say, but I think there's going to be some movement this season in the offseason. I think Kent Hughes has a lot of decisions to make, and he's going to have to make some moves. They're going to try to acquire that scoring winger for top 6 if they don't draft that guy. They're going to try to acquire a guy there, I think. And I think there's some bottom 6 movement that they want to make. And there you go. That's what I think is going to happen, especially the defense. They got to make room for Hudson, Reinbacher, and Mayu. They got to make room, and they got to start doing that this offseason. That's it. I'm going to stop talking now. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Until next time. Peace out, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Ciao, everybody.